So the way to check for outliers is to enter the data, and then the first question asks for the correlation coefficient with the outlier and the second without the outlier. So let's see how to do this in our calculator. So first off, I loaded the data. So in L1 is the X values and in L2 is the Y values. And we can plot this. So if we go into stat plot and just look at a scatter plot of this data, so we can have L1 being the X coordinates and L1 being the X coordinates and L2 being the Y coordinates. And we can go into zoom and do stat zoom, and you can definitely see the outlier out there on the right. So that's one way to do this. Another way to do this is to use the calculator's test. So that also means going back into stat plot, going into that first plot and changing it to one of these box and whisker with outliers. So that little dot out there shows us, or actually there's two dots, shows us that it'll check for outliers. So when we go in here, L1, and let's quit and go to zoom and the stat zoom, and we see that there is that outlier out there. So in the X list, when we look at the X values, there's one that's clearly very far away, so that's 177.7. So when we go into the data, we can clear both of those values associated with that outlier. So let's delete this, and let's go over to L1 and delete the accompanying X value. Now let's do a stat plot. So let's go in and make that plot just a scatter diagram. And let's see how it looks when we zoom, do a stat zoom. So zoom, zoom, and then stat zoom, and we can see that there isn't that one that's very far away. But let's confirm this by checking the rules for outliers. So let's go in and change that to a box and whisker with outliers and see what we get when we graph that. And now notice there are no outliers. Someone also asked how you turn diagnostics on. So we're going to do that. So second and into the catalog. And then this has got everything in it, including turning the diagnostics on and off. So let's turn the diagnostics on. So there's the diagnostics on when I press enter. Now that means that when I go into stat and calculate the linear regression for this data for x1 and y1, I can store it if I like. Remember in vars, you can go over to yvars and you can store that in y1 if you wanted to, just showing you how to do that. But more importantly for this question is it'll show me the R value. So here's the correlation coefficient with that outlier removed. Notice that that's negative. Okay, hope that helps. Thanks so much.